danger of saying something, even if it's meant to be helpful, lies in what isn't said, not necessarily what is said. If you get somebody to focus on one thing, it takes their attention away from everything else. So, the way to do one thing is the way to do anything. It's the way that can't be taught by anybody else outside of you. In other words, nobody could teach you how to learn. Why? It's because it might work for your classmates, but not you. The particular method. Or it might work if you're trying to shoot a jump shot. Or if you're trying to fix a car. You know, everybody learns differently. Some people won't learn. They won't learn until they're relaxed and comfortable. They're not worried about getting it wrong. And other people thrive on the challenge of the tightrope walk over shame that represents failure. There's all different kinds of people. So, in life though, life's too broad and vast. If you want to make it about one thing, go ahead, do that, but it won't be long before you see my way. Why? There's a way inside of everything, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with what you think it is. And that's who rules, no matter who appears to rule. Those are the what would you call those? The pre-dawn kings and queens, or queens for a day, or kings for a day. Why? The United States government called it Project Naomi. Niggers are only momentary individuals. So what does that mean? It's like being rich instead of wealthy. It's like being right instead of happy. Wisdom is willing to take you higher than these meager rations that the world will offer you. And if you have to stand these Agent Smiths in their tracks, so be it. If you can enjoy a day without having to do that, all the better to you, but don't think those days last forever. Eventually you'll have to. I was happy one time with somebody, with a bunch of people, and they were happy, and 18 months of it, but everybody was, at the very least, encouraging everybody else to be happy. Not just superficially, like have a nice day, but like if they asked you how you were doing, you could actually tell them. Those kind of people. And otherwise there's no purpose in having people in your life. And these acquaintances there's no purpose for them. That's why that's all they have to say. Because you're not supposed to get stuck on them. If you were, then they'd be crying over a beer with you somewhere. Or they'd be walking in the woods on mushrooms with you. But instead, they just cover their bases. Hi, how are you today? Oh, that's good, yeah. Spending money? Oh, right this way. Everything is... And business harbors the gatekeepers. Why? The gatekeepers of goodness, the true evil. Why? It's the true ignorance. So what's the point? It's the true darkness, the true dimness. And there's just business not only affords those people to rise to the top, it doesn't not only afford them the advantages in the game, of life that the world makes you play. But everybody that's too weak or too blind themselves, or even if their heart's in the right place, they'll just bow right down to it. I've witnessed it all over the fucking place. Why? In men and women in New York, Montana, it doesn't make a difference. Wherever it is, it's like that Wicked Witch thing where in New York, it was at a graveyard, a cemetery, and there was a guy there, and I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. I was waiting for the punchline, and he tried pulling it on me first day. You know, like trying to like hammer my head down into my shirt with his you know, bravado or whatever. Who the fuck is this guy? Who's this fucking guy? Hey, who's this fucking guy? You know, like I'm the new guy. You know, like you gotta fucking talk shit. They're all union members. You know, they're all fucking wired in forever, and making millions of dollars, digging up bodies. So, anyway, what's the point? The point is that I didn't let him stand. I didn't let him get away with it day one. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, he said something about going into the some kind of like closet or something, and one of us won't come out. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. Why? I was never more capable of destruction in my life, physically. I was 232 pounds, but I was like, I don't know, 2% body fat or something. It was ridiculous. So what's the point? And I was made of iron. He didn't know that, but you know, he probably could tell at least a little bit. But he was like 6'5", big Irish, red face, you know, red skin. He had to keep all of his monkeys in line. And if the new guy came on board and he didn't, if they sensed weakness in him because of me being around, then he would lose something he'd put a lot of effort into over 10 years or more. Yeah, and making them passive to him. So finally one day, oh yeah, there was another thing before that. There was this beautiful young strong, he looked like a mixture of Italian and black, light skin, but he just had all the talent you could have. He had the most talent, the most ability. He was like really gifted just at being alive. Like physically, he was bursting with beauty and youth. And I took him under my wing, only to find out that I didn't want him under my wing. Why? Because he was too busy scared of that guy. And he's like, and that guy walked out one day, and he said something like, whatever stupid men say when they're being macho, you know, and they kick everybody's ass, you know, that kind of thing. And I said to the kid, you know, well, blah, blah, blah. And the kid goes, well, he's right. And I was waiting for the punchline. He wasn't kidding. He was sincerely under that guy's thumb. And I was like, wow, if you could see what I see. So one day we're out at the lunch truck, and he walks over and he, you know, stands next to me, like, and he looks down at me because he's taller, you know. And he says something like this, and he goes, blah, 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 blah. You think you're this and that and all this? And I didn't say shit. Then he goes, I just looked him right in the eye. And then he goes, and he says something, and then he gave me like a shot in the stomach, except it was like hitting a steel wall. I had muscle I mean, you couldn't have shot a bullet through me. So what's the point? And then you should have saw his face change. Why? It became a reality all of a sudden. Then he was really in trouble. Why? Not because of what I was going to do, but because of how hard it was going to be for him to fulfill his duties as, local goon or whatever. So what's the point? Then eventually, some little guy, about half my size, black guy, oh, he thought he was full of himself like nobody's business, and he's just like stomping around and, kind of like in your space rudely, oh, excuse me, after he bumps into you on purpose, and shit like that. So we were like, I wasn't backing down. That's just not my style. So he's like, one day he said, I don't even remember every day. There was a lead up to it. Like every day got worse. And I was riding my bike to and from work back then too. And I'm riding my bike. Oh yeah. So before we left that day, he goes, duh, 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 duh. I bet your ass won't be here on Monday though, because he just finished threatening my life or shit, And I was like, I bet your ass won't be here on Monday, Friday, whatever it was. And I was like, I'll be here. So I went outside after work, and I started to, I'm the only person on a bike, of course, just like now. And everybody else is already gone. And I'm driving down these roads. And all of a sudden, his car comes up behind me like the Wraith with Charlie Sheen, And I'm like, okay. So then he went past me, and I was, he was like giving me the finger, yelling or some shit, and I, started yelling at him. And then I got off my bike, and I literally ripped my shirt off in the middle of the street. I threw my bike down, I ripped my shirt off, and I pounded my chest. What? I swear to God, what? It was just I'm not that way, but what? It was like, I felt like I was being stalked. So I don't deal with that too well. And I was ready to, eat my way through his car to get to his face. So, anyway, I'm really glad none of that shit happened. Why? Because, I'm glad most people are just bluffing pussies. Why? Because all over the country they were. Not just in New York and Chicago, in Portland, everywhere, black, white, big, small, didn't matter what. They were all full of shit. All the men were. Why? All the boys and the men. They were. I even had all the routines like, he gets on his phone and he acts like he's waving 20 brothers from 2 blocks away down. You better get out of here, Yeah, I don't think so. I popped up in his face so fast, that guy shit himself and went to shake my hand. And he wasn't even done being a jerk off to me. But he was sorry immediately. So what's the point? I was sitting on the ground with a girl selling hemp. We were homeless. And I just met her. And we were just having a great old day. And so what's the point? People find it real easy not to like me because they feel insecure around me. Why? Because for one reason or another, if you're a man, you'll question if you can kick my ass, and most of the time you'll know that you can't. And then if you're a girl, you'll say, even if you're taken or you're not, you'll say, oh, well, I still, even though I can't, I'm taken, I still want him to look. And even, or I'm not taken, and I don't want him to look. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. Why? There's just unnatural vibes around women nowadays that didn't used to be there. Why? In New York City, girls get hit on all the time. And maybe that's their blessing because they don't have an awkwardness about them. And they don't have a coldness about them for all the come-ons they get. They didn't used to. I'm sure they do now, like everywhere else. But in the old days, romance was in the air. There was no way any of us were getting any part of happiness without each other. And now people found a way through their technology, and it's a bad habit. So